Hey guys, Dr. Braddock here. I'm going to show you something absolutely fascinating using a safety pin. Alright? We call it the safety pin cycle. Probably one of the most eloquent ways to understand how your body heals and functions. The more that you understand about how your body heals and functions, the better able you are to take care of it. Now what we're going to do is when we look at the safety pin, you guys are familiar with the safety pin, you know how it works. There are two ends. The top end, what I want you to do is imagine that as your brain. Alright? The bottom end, the little circle at the bottom, we're going to imagine as a tissue cell. We know that your brain is constantly communicating with every cell, organ, and tissue of your body. It does that by sending the life force, the information, instructions, directions, down the nerve, down the spinal cord, and out the nerves to the tissue cell. In turn, we'll imagine that tissue cell, we'll say, is your stomach, okay? In turn, the stomach is going to let the brain know how much stomach acid it needs based on the type of food and the quantity of food in the stomach at that particular time. So, in turn, the tissue cell is communicating with the brain. And whenever that loop of communication is whole, it's uninterrupted, it's uninterfered with, you have perfect health between the brain and that area of the body. And when that is true of the whole body, you have 100% health. You have maximized God-given health. What happens, however, though, is sometimes there's a breakdown in this communication. You can imagine what I'm about to do, but this happens, alright? Maybe this is sitting too many hours at a computer. Maybe this is a car accident, a sports accident. Maybe it's actually birth trauma, okay? A number of the people that we see here, their very first subluxation we're going to talk about is birth trauma. It's actually from delivery. But you can see when the brain sends the information now down the spinal cord to the tissue cell, it's okay. But when the tissue sends back up how much stomach acid it needs, if we're using that same example, it doesn't get there. There's a disconnect, alright? What chiropractic does is, what we want to do is allow the brain and the body to once again communicate at 100%. That disconnect is called the subluxation. It's whenever the brain and the body can no longer communicate at 100%. Now maybe your stomach is telling your brain that it needs X amount of stomach acid. The brain doesn't get that information because there's a disconnect, so maybe it sends more. Then you have, acid reflux, irritable bowel, anything like that. Believe it or not, folks, acid reflux is not a deficiency in antacids, alright? It's not that God forgot to put enough purple pill in you in the first place, but there's a disconnect between the brain and the body. That's called the subluxation. That happens when a bone moves out of place. It chokes or irritates the nerve, and whatever that nerve goes to suffers. Maybe it's the nerve that goes down your leg and you have sciatica. Maybe it's the nerve that goes to your stomach and you have acid reflux. Those nerves go to every cell, organ, and tissue of your body, and it is irrefutable that anytime there's pressure on a nerve, it's going to make your body sick in one form or fashion. Maybe there is pain, like sciatica. Maybe there is zero pain and zero symptoms. That's why in our office we want to make sure that we check every single person's spine. Every person in your family needs to have their spine checked. Once we evaluate, we determine, are there subluxations present? We figure out how to detect and correct those subluxations so you can once again experience abundant life, just the way God intended us for. Make sure that there's no pressure, there's no interference in that system, so you can heal and function the way God created you to in the first place. If you haven't had your family checked, if you haven't been checked in our office, we urge you to make sure that you get in here, that we at least evaluate, do a checkup, and take some x-rays to determine what's going on with you and if you have a subluxation or not. I look forward to seeing you in the future. God bless.